please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Top story this evening: after 16 days of constant fuel price hikes, oil marketing companies today decided that it was time for a cut. But nothing to cheer about for consumers. The downward revision was merely 1 paisa. Even this cut had its fair share of drama. Early in the day, the Indian Oil Corporation website showed that it had lowered petrol prices by 60 paise and diesel prices by 56 paise a litre. But this was corrected after, and the consumers were literally left with just that token cut of 1 paise. So the revised price of petrol in Mumbai now stands at 86.23 a litre versus 86.24 yesterday. I spoke with Narendra Taneja of the BJP Energy Cell and R.S. Sharma, former CMD of ONGC, to get a sense of what they make of the move. The BJP spokesperson saying he himself was surprised by the 1 paise per litre cut, and R.S. Sharma alleges that the three OMCs, IOC, BPCL and HPCL, are functioning almost like a cartel.
How come the three companies, they decide, is it a cartel? They decide that every day what is going to be the price increase, and all these three companies that they decide the same price increase. You know, we are trying to compare this regime to the global scenario. First of all, I see no logic of daily price revision that has been implemented. I don't know, right from day one I have been critical of this mechanism. This has become the transparency is totally lost. So let it be fair, and I am making a forecast today. You will see that regulated mechanism, which is so far the policy makers are saying we are not doing an intervention. Very soon you will hear that intervention coming from the policy makers also.
I mean, I have also seen, and to be honest with you, even I was surprised. What is this joke? I mean, one paisa. I fully agree with you on this, and I think those people responsible for doing these daily number crunching at these companies' headquarters, Delhi, Bombay, etc. I mean, they should be careful and be more sensitive to these things. I understand. Mr. Sharma was talking about cartelization. I said there is a kind of some merit in it. All I'm saying is that there should be competition. All these three state-owned companies plus private sector companies, let there be competition, because so that the absolute transparency, so that the consumer get benefit of it. Once you have decontrol, then you have decontrol. Let there be competition. What's wrong with it?
Well, that's the BJP spokesperson saying that he agrees with the former ONGC chairman that there is a degree of cartelization among OMCs, and claims the government continues to be hands-off when it comes to pricing. Now, it is important to remember that this is not the first time that a 1 paise hike or cut has in fact taken place. Since the daily price revision started, a 1 paise cut has happened as many as 10 times, including today. Prashant is standing by with the 1 paise fuel math. Prashant, you know, 1 paise hike or a cut, I mean, this is immaterial, but it's not unusual. In fact, it's happened several times in the past.
Well, it's safe to say that this 1 paisa cut in petrol prices, fuel prices at the pump, is getting a fair bit of ridicule. You know, you've got opposition parties, commentators, everyone trying to corner the government and saying, well, if you had to cut by 1 paisa after numerous hikes, why even bother? How does it matter? Is it a bit of a joke? I think the implicit assumption there is that the government sort of signs off on these price cuts, or they take an active decision in these price cuts. Well, that is not entirely the case, at least not right now. And I'll get to that in just a bit in terms of how the pass-through happens. But, I mean, to begin with, is a 1 paisa cut all that unusual? Well, I went back and looked at, you know, since the time the daily price revision started, and I found 10 instances of 1 paisa cuts and 9 instances of 1 paisa hikes. I mean, so this, you know, 1 paisa change has happened both times, on the way up and on the way down. So the allegation that this is the first time this has happened and, you know, this is really not done is not true. It has happened before, and it has happened numerous times, as this graphic actually tells you. The other point, I think, which one needs to note is the pass-through mechanism. You know, it's not as if global crude oil prices fall $5 one day and you see an immediate big cut in global in prices at the pump for petrol and diesel. The reason is, to set the local price at the pump, what is used is a 15-day rolling average of both the global crude oil price and the rupee-dollar exchange rate. While both the crude oil price globally and the rupee-dollar exchange rate has moved in favor towards a cut at the pump, well, it is not as fast as we'd like and hope to be. And I'll tell you why. Look at this change. It's a $1 change between the 23rd and the 24th, whereas you look at the 15-day rolling average price of global crude oil prices, I mean, it's not even moved. It's actually moved higher. And the reason is that as global prices come off, it comes into, it shows up in the local price with a lag, with a 15-day lag. So I think for us to expect a meaningful price impact may be fair. For us to expect to be paying a lot less at the pump may be fair, but it will show up with a lag. And for that, what you need is global crude oil prices staying where they are, or even actually drifting lower. That is the only way we are going to get this automatic daily revision meaningfully lower. Back to you.
Well, the wait is going to be longer, but as Prashant was pointing out, while it might be immaterial, a 1 paise cut or a hike is not unusual. It has happened previously as well. Meanwhile, the Pinarayi Vijayan-led Kerala government has taken the lead among states and has cut value-added tax on petrol and diesel by more than 1.6%. The move will make petrol and diesel in Kerala cheaper by ₹1 per litre from Friday. Remember, fuel prices vary from one state to the other depending on local sales tax or VAT. I caught up with the Finance Minister of Kerala, Thomas Isaac, earlier. He told me that it was time the central government took a cue from the state of Kerala and cut excise duty on fuel.
Here is a central government who, without any remorse, has increased the tax rate more than double. And then preaching things of behavior to others. No. If you are serious about controlling the price of petrol and diesel, first roll back the increase in the tax rate that you infected. Then we'll sit down and discuss whether to go full surcharge or ad valorem.
So your message is... Your message to the centre is don't preach but act. Let me ask you, sir, do you have room to cut the VAT even further if we do continue to see global crude prices move higher, even though they've been declining over the last few days? But to provide more relief, do you have the elbow room to bring down your VAT rate even further? And also, if I could ask you, in terms of how much has accrued to you as a state government when we've seen the ad valorem benefit, what has been the revenue implication of that, and what is the revenue implication of this move?
See, suppose we had decided to collect the tax on the price increase of the petrol and diesel, that marginal increase in the price that taxed upon, at the present rate, we would have gained something like 500 crores. So we are giving up that 500 crores.
But you have also benefited from the fact that the duty structure is ad valorem, the state VAT is ad valorem, and all states like yours have also benefited on account of the higher global prices. So that has had positive revenue implications for your state.
My response would be to fund, I have already stated, we don't want this. Let them reduce the rate of tax and prices will come down, and we make a solemn promise. We won't raise the rate to keep up our revenue. 2, now since they are not listening to us, well, I have an initiative to give up the additional revenue that you accrue because of our ad valorem rate structure. Now, if you are asking me, are you going to do it in future? Well, I hope there will be enough protest in India that our action will also incentivize such social protest movement so that the central government will the tax hike and we won't have to reduce our rates further.
Well, the Finance Minister of Kerala there throwing a challenge to the centre. Kerala, the first of the bloc to cut the VAT rate. Now, the big story from banking today. ICICI Bank has said it has decided to institute an inquiry into the allegations levelled by an anonymous whistleblower against Chanda Kochhar. The allegations are related to conflict of interest and quid pro quo practiced by Kochhar while giving loans in certain cases. Ritu Singh joins us now with more. Ritu, what will this committee that ICICI Bank says it will constitute look into?
That's right. The board of ICICI Bank has instituted an independent probe to look into a whistleblower's charges against the bank's MD and CEO Chanda Kochhar. Now, this is in reference with the letter that was written by an ICICI Bank shareholder, Arvind Gupta, in 2015, alleging that the bank CEO Chanda Kochhar had given out loans to Videocon Group as a quid pro quo for his investment in her husband's firm. Now, the board today said that the audit committee will be appointing a head of inquiry and together will be looking into allegations of violation of code of conduct by the bank CEO, as also allegations of quid pro quo in her dealing with some of the customers. In fact, they further said that the inquiry will be making use of forensics and email reviews if required. This is important also because it comes just 4 days after SEBI as well issued a show-cause notice to the bank and its CEO Chanda Kochhar for alleged violation of disclosure requirements under the securities law, in this case which involves the Videocon Group and New Power Renewables, which is the company that is run by Chanda Kochhar's husband Deepak Kochhar.
Appreciate you joining us with that. Let's now talk about this discussion with former Executive Director of SEBI, J.N. Gupta, and Amit Tandon of IIAS. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here. Mr. Gupta, let me ask you, this was a demand that people were making when this issue first came to light. So far, we didn't see much of a response from the board in wanting to set up an independent committee to evaluate the allegations that have been made. Do you believe that the trigger really has been the SEBI notice?
I will tell you that it is better late than never, but I agree with you that the board should have done it right at the beginning, because the board was criticized very much because it was some sort of self-certification that they have given to themselves and to their executive director or chairman, and now they have realized their folly. And as you see that you were saying that 4 days back SEBI had also asked for show-cause notice, so probably they thought that the heat is increasing and then the best way out will be to have an independent probe. And I am happy to say that now this probe is at the other end of the spectrum. The first end of the spectrum was that the board itself qualified and said nothing is wrong. Now they have said it will be independent and the scope of the inquiry is also unlimited, or there is no boundary for that. So I would say it is a welcome step, and I think it will in the interest of all the stakeholders, because it will clarify the position once for all, provided the independent person who is appointed is really independent and is a man of repute. Now, it will be in the interest of Mrs. Kochhar, because it will prove whether either she is guilty or not guilty. It will benefit employees of the bank because they are living in uncertainty what is going to be the future, whether the same CEO will be there or not. For the shareholder, because they do not know how the market will value this. And for regulator to know what action it has to take. And the board also to realize that whether there was a folly or not. And it should cover as a direction to all other boards, that in case there is something, some issues like this, serious issues with it, they should not be self-certification. But then again, there is the other risk, because in this present world where everything is information is free, social media and all other things, now if everybody starts complaining about every other body, then how many inquiries one will conduct?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I guess it also has to do with the nature of the allegations that have been made, the severity of the allegations that have to be made, which will decide the future course of any board's direction. But Amit Tandon, as Mr. Gupta pointed out, better late than never. But also, in terms of the scope of the inquiry that the committee will look into, one of the criticisms was that the board of ICICI perhaps had given the clean chit only basis the loan that was given to Videocon by ICICI Bank. But there was a second leg of the transaction which pertained to the quid pro quo allegation that perhaps the board may or may not have looked into. We don't know, because that was not clearly articulated. Given what you've seen in the statement and the scope of the inquiry, do you believe that now the second leg of the transaction will also be looked into and hence clarify any apprehensions?
Look, I'm really not sure what the purpose is behind this whole inquiry at this stage. It's not clear from the press release whether it's the same allegations, whether there are new charges of code of conduct and conflict of interest which have come out. And therefore, in terms of at this moment, what the exact scope is also not clear, because if it is the old allegations which have surfaced again, I'm really not sure what purpose it serves. If it is something new, then it's not something which has been clarified at this stage, and it's not obvious. And I kind of joined this conversation late, so I'm not sure whether you've been able to cover that ground at this stage or not. As far as the second leg of the transaction is concerned, it's actually quite outside the scope of, in the very narrow sense, it's outside the scope of ICICI because it's something which they've lent money to, and it's something which is happening at that end. And therefore, it's much more to do with the end user funds, if I may use that word. And so I'm not really sure in terms of whether that is in the scope of these services at this stage or not. But you know,
but do you believe, Amit, as Mr. Gupta was pointing out,
my sense is that they have decided who the.
Yeah, sorry, but you're saying that they have decided who will head the committee?
I think it is there because, you know, if you read the last line on page 1, they said the audit committee will also, in consultation with the head of inquiry, make arrangements to assist him with independent legal and professional support as may be required. So it could be a him, it could be a her, but to the extent it's him, I'm presuming that they know who this person is. They should have disclosed
well, they haven't made that public
in the first instance itself.
They haven't. They haven't disclosed who is going to head that committee. But for now, Amit and Mr. Gupta, Well, let me end then by asking you, and I'll start by asking you, Amit, you know, you said that you don't understand the point of setting up this committee at this point in time, but the fact is that they have now decided to do so. This was the demand, that set up an independent committee to inquire into the allegations. Will it allay, you know, some concerns that investors have with respect to what has happened?
Look, Shireen, my view at this stage is that given the fact that there are regulatory inquiries going on, that is what the final word would be. So if, let us for the moment assume that the committee which is now set up, inquiry, exonerates her, it's not that the regulators are going to say, okay, the independent inquiries exonerated her and therefore we are also going to exonerate her, and that overhang is going to remain with investors. So I think at this moment, investors will wait and watch and see whether it's SFIO, whether it is the CBI, and whether it's the other people who are looking at it, what they have to say on this matter, rather than what this independent inquiry comes to conclude.
So I'll end by getting you to comment on exactly that point, Mr. Gupta, that, you know, there are several regulatory bodies, including SEBI, that are looking into this matter. So, you know, whatever the finding of this committee is, may not be the final say and may not close this matter.
So I would agree that I would agree that it may not be the final, but understand the SEBI has also issued show cause notice to ICICI Bank. Now, ICICI Bank, again, if it's right that board has examined and found nothing wrong, it will not be doing its duty correctly. That is why ICICI Bank will have this independent report, and whatever reply it has to send to the regulator will send regulator based on the independent assessment and based on the independent report. This is our finding. It could be right or wrong. So today we are sitting on a jigsaw puzzle. When this entire jigsaw puzzle is assembled, we will see whether it is a cross or a yes sign. We have to wait for that.
Yes, we certainly do. Jane Gupta and Amit Tandon, appreciate you joining us here. Absolutely, it will form the basis of their reply. Appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV18 with the developments of the day. A day after the CBI booked AirAsia Group CEO Tony Fernandes and others for the alleged violation of norms in getting an international flying license, we did an in-depth analysis of the FIR filed against AirAsia by the CBI. The charges mentioned both the UPA2 as well as the present NDA tenure. Utkarsh Chaturvedi joins us now to go over the details. So Utkarsh, you know, the timeline as per the CBI FIR falls under the UPA2 as well as the current government.
Exactly, Shireen. As you said, the timeline of the crime committed according to the FIR spans across both the UPA and the NDA tenure. So let's have a look at the crimes allegedly committed during the UPA period and the NDA period. Now, according to the CBI FIR, a secret cabinet note was sent on 27th of February 2014, that is in the UPA regime, to the cabinet to remove the existing 520 rule. And R. Venkatraman, at that point of time, was involved in lobbying with other stakeholders in the government of India to secure mandatory approvals, some of them through non-transparent means. Now, Civil Aviation Ministry, in fact, had sent clarification in the form of supplementary note on 5th of March 2014 to the cabinet, However, the proposal at that point of time could not be approved since the Election Commission had announced general elections. Now, in this period, the Aviation Minister was Ajit Singh and the Aviation Secretary was Ashok Lavasa, who's currently the Election Commissioner. Post this event, the government changed, and months after the new government came in power, CBI alleges a closed packet was delivered by Bolingam to one Mr. Sriram. We don't really know who this Mr. Sriram is. Then the FIR takes a jump of almost 2 years and speaks about an amount of 12.28 crores remitted in the account of HNR Trading Private Limited. This HNR Trading allegedly is owned by Rajinder Dubey, one of the accused, by Air Asia Limited, which according to the FIR is a sham contract, and the money was utilized to bribe government officials. Also, aviation lobbyist Deepak Talwar received an amount of 17 lakh rupees by Air Asia, and during this period, the aviation minister was Ashok Gajapati Raju. And in this span of couple of years, which is 2015 to 2016, aviation secretaries changed in quick succession. So, Mr. Ashok Lavasa, Mr. V. Somasundaran, and Mr. R.N. Chaube, who is serving as the aviation secretary till date, changed hands. But still, Shireen, there are a lot of questions which the FIR does not answer. What was the amount paid or bribed to officials in the UPA era? What happened to the 50 lakhs paid to one Mr. Sriram in December 2014 and the payments made in 2015-16? Was that the reason why the rule was changed later? And obviously, the unknown government servants involved in this. Now, we hope that during the period of investigation, CBI will be able to find these answers, and we will get the same to our viewers as and when we get them. With that, it's back to you.
Well, Utkarsh, many thanks for joining us. We will take that conversation forward on India Business Hour. Staying with the CBI, it's also registered a case in the co-location matter against Sanjay Gupta, the promoter of OPG Securities, his brother-in-law Aman Kakredi, and unknown officials of SEBI and NSE. CBI alleges that Sanjay Gupta abused the server architecture of the National Stock Exchange in conspiracy with the officials of the exchange. It also blames the NSE officials for providing unfair access to OPG Securities during 2010 to 2012. This in turn, they claim, helped OPG get sensitive market data before any other broker in the market. So that's the latest, the CBI registering a case against OPG Securities. On to the big global exclusive. I continue to be an unashamed raging India bull. That's the word in from Martin Sorrell, the former CEO of WPP. In a conversation with CNBC TV18's Anant Rangaswamy, Sorrell says that while India's growth momentum may have slowed down in the near term, he is confident that the long-term economic growth story is intact and will continue to grow. We leave you with a slice of our global exclusive with Martin Sorrell. We'll see you on India Business Hour.
I continue to be a raging Indian bull, unashamed raging Indian bull, and Prime Minister Modi has made a significant impact on the Indian economy. It does seem that the momentum has slightly shifted down, and obviously that's because of the demonetization and the GST that we saw recently to some extent, and for maybe other factors too. But I think the political trends in India will continue to improve, and the economic background for the country will continue to improve.